All righty then, good morning and a warm welcome. Thank you for offering up your Sunday morning to spend some time with the Cognoscracy Society. It's an awesome day today, and I think choices made in life brings happiness in life. Make the right choices will do that. And we're currently busy with a training series now to tap into your natural state of unlimited love and abundance starting right now. I do believe that the greatest privilege that human beings can have is to become who they really are. And for me, a choice that I made a couple of weeks ago, starting with Mrs. Rona and so forth, I decided to remind people about who they really are. The Bible so clearly says that we are God-like. You are gods, Jesus says to the disciples. And if we don't tap into that, we can't tap into the power. Now, what is important here is to understand you can always give away your power, but you can never give away your responsibility. Whatever happens to you in your life, you have to take responsibility for that. It's not always your fault, but it's always your responsibility. Mathew 7:7 says, ask and you will receive. Now, this is a verse that's quoted many, many times by many preachers, but why doesn't it always work? Why does it sometimes work and sometimes not? Mathew 7:7, ask and you will receive. If this is a law, then it should work in any instance. So we're going to look at the Gospel of Thomas today, and I'm going to speak on the concept of the language that the universe speaks and see if we can learn something from that. Now, these are the secret sayings which the living Jesus spoke and which Didymus, Judas, Thomas wrote down. Now, there's a phenomenal revelation in this saying here. The Gospel of Thomas starts off with, these are the secret sayings which the living Jesus spoke and which Didymus, Judas, Thomas wrote down. The word Didymus means twin. And obviously, not that obviously, but for a trained ear, there's three different characters being portrayed here. There's Jesus, there's Judas, and there's Thomas. So Jesus becomes the believer. Judas becomes the traitor. And Thomas, the unbeliever. So if we look at these three characters, three personality styles, and we look at our own lives, are we actually the believers or are we the traitors? How many times people say to me, but awkward life, never betrayed anybody or myself, really? And your dreams, how many of your dreams that you had in life were fulfilled? Many people are traitors to themselves, not necessarily to other people. But then Thomas the doubter, and how many times again people say to me, I don't doubt, but how many times have you doubted yourself, doubted your dreams coming a reality and so forth? So there's three people here, and when we look at the Mathew 7:7, if you look at these three character traits, if we speak from the Jesus platform, the believer, what you ask, you will receive. If you speak from the Judas platform, what you ask, you will not receive. If you speak from a Thomas platform, you will not receive what you asked. So we have to look at our lives and be, I like the word brutally honest. People say to me, don't say brutally honest, rather say lovingly honest. But I think we should be brutally honest with ourselves and say to ourselves, are we really living in one of these styles? Now, the first verse in the Gospel of Thomas says, and he said, whoever finds the interpretation of these sayings will not experience death. Now, this is not a physical death, it's a spiritual death, an experience of being alive in our current reality. But when we look at this verse, very important, he said, and he said, whoever finds the interpretation of these sayings. So it's not the sayings itself, it is the interpretations. Obviously, yes, the sayings have a meaning, but we have to look at the interpretation. And we've discussed that many times in the past. Your framework of reference to a great degree determines your interpretation. Depends on your background, you'll see things different than other people. But we have to look at this interpretation, and I'm going to do my level best to interpret it for you. Second saying says, Jesus said, let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled. When he becomes troubled, he will be astonished, and he will rule over all. Now, again, there's a whole amount of information here. Number one is, when he finds, let him seek, keep on seeking. When he finds, he'll be troubled. Now, I think the concept of being troubled just relates to how easy it is to live your life in fulfillment, being the God person that you are. We have to remember that we were born to forget, to remember to forget. So we're born to forget that we are God-like. We run into our parents teach us limiting beliefs. We become like our parents, and Genesis 5 verse 3 says, our names have become an abomination before God. So this is important to understand, that our personality has become an abomination. Not you as a person, your personality, that which you've learned to be. And then he says, when he becomes troubled, he will be astonished, and he will rule over all, when he discovers that he actually can live godlike. Number 3 says, Jesus said, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. So it's not something that we can find out there somewhere. It's something that's inside us and also outside us. But the moment we find the kingdom inside us, it will be expressed in the external world. Because your external world cannot be otherwise expressed than your internal world reflects that to you. So, very important. People say, go to a specific church, belong to a specific religion. It's not true. You have to tap into the reality of who you actually are. Now, when you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you will dwell in poverty. And listen to the next saying. It says, and it is you who are that poverty. It is an astonishing saying. And every time I read this, I just come to the conclusion that we have this power, like I said when we started off with having our conversation. You can surrender your power, but never your responsibility. We have to take that responsibility back. The moment we surrender that power, we will be the poverty. All right. The secret is not in the sayings, but in the interpretation. And like I said, I'll try my little best to interpret it to the best of my ability. Verse 3 says, this teaching refers to if you believe the power is outside of you, and then that thing will hold you in bondage for the rest of your life. So it's not an external world. We live in an external world. It's true. In a world of experience, it's only the experience that counts. And if we look at the concept that you were born rich and conditioned to be poor, we just have to tap into the essence of this is a reflection. Every single time we look at, we have a relationship with people. We have created those people in our lives. We have created that experience in our lives. We have created the money, the job, every single thing. And the people will not change unless we change. The moment you change internally, that's what these verses are saying. The moment we change internally, it will be reflected in the external world. If it's not reflected in the external world, then, my friend, you haven't changed. It's as easy as that. And we have to take responsibility for that. Verse 27, Jesus said, if you do not fast as regards to this world, you will not find the kingdom. In other words, you have to get away from the external world and tap into your inner world to that extent. Verse 50 says, Jesus said, if they say to you, where did you come from? Say to them, we came from the light, the place where the light came into being on its own accord and established itself and became manifest through the image. If they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children. We are the elect of the living Father. If they ask you, what is the sign of your Father in you? Say to them, it is the movement and repose. Now again, I can speak all day about this specific verse, but right in the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1 verse 2, the Bible says, God created light. God said, let there be light. Now that word light is ore in Hebrew. And the word ore translates into like lightning energy. So right in the beginning, God created energy, and from that energy, every single thing in this universe were created. And this is exactly what this verse says. If they say to you, where did you come from? Say to them, we came from the light. We came from the energy. And the Bible says, you are the light of this world. So the moment we grasp this, that every single thing in this universe is energy. And I've shared this in previous videos with the students and so forth. When we look at quantum physics, there's two types of energy. They are waves and they are particles. So the moment you focus on something, you are the observer and the observed. The moment you focus on something, that becomes more in your life. Where your focus goes, your attention goes, your energy flows, substance manifests in your life. So waves are possibilities and probabilities. Every single thing that you intend to create or can create or want to create exists as a possibility in this universe. Every single thing. There's no exception to the rule. Whatever you think about, you can bring about. And the moment you focus on that, it becomes a particle. It manifests in your life. And this is exactly what this verse says. And astonishing, because people have asked me so many times, why do you believe in God? Why do you believe in the Bible? And it's because these things have been said thousands of years ago. It was just for the untrained ear, it was not Sure, it was not explained. Is it you? Then we have to say, we are its children. We are the elect of the living Father. If they ask you, what is the sign of your Father in you? Say to them, it is the movement and repose. Exactly what I just said. It is the waves and the particles. It is the wave, the movement, and the repose and the particles. Exactly. So it's astonishing. Well, to me anyhow. Okay. The word light is used to portray human consciousness, and the Bible says you are light of this world. Verse 77 says, Jesus said, it is I who am the light, which is above them all. It is I who am the all. From me did the all come forth, and unto me did the all extend. Split a piece of wood, and I'm there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. Exactly the same thing that I spoke about, energy. Now let's go back to that first verse that I shared. 3 types of personalities there. There's Jesus, there is Thomas, and there is Judas. So Jesus said, if you are not tapping into your Jesus personality, the Jesus consciousness, you will not experience these things. And energy, again, lift up the stone and you will find me there. Split a piece of wood and you will find me there. Energy is every single thing that they are. This explains that the one consciousness lives in everything. In him we live and move and have our being, says Acts 17 verse 28. Verse 113, Gospel of Thomas. His disciples said to him, when will the kingdom come? Jesus said, it will not come by waiting for it. It will not be a matter of saying, here it is, or there it is. Rather, the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, and men do not see it. Now, John the 4th chapter says, the disciples comes to Jesus after he's been with the woman at the well. He said to her, if you knew who I were, you would have asked me, and I would have given you living water flowing out of me. Then the disciples comes to him and says to him, aren't you hungry? And he says, no, I have food to eat, but you don't know about that food. And then he says to them, don't you say still 4 months, and the harvest will be ripe on the field? And he says, I say, look up and see, the harvest is already on the field. So what we have to realize, consciousness shifts. Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created that. So consciousness shifts. You have to go from a beta consciousness, because all problems exist in a beta consciousness. You have to tap into a higher consciousness state, which is a theta consciousness. Now when we look at this verse, the Bible says, look up. Look up in your higher consciousness. Look up to your third eye. What do you see? I say to you, the harvest is already ripe in the field. And exactly what they say. Rather, the kingdom of the Father spread out upon the earth. Men just don't see it. It's there. Every single thing around us is there. Ours for the taking, ours for the asking. We've always had this power within us, but we have lost sight of it. And the reason why we've lost sight of it is because of the most dangerous groups of people you can ever meet in your life is parents, teachers, and preachers. Now, I know that your parents are different than the rest of the parents. They taught you every single thing about saving and manifesting. Okay, I'm joking about that. Okay. So my responsibility, I feel, is just reminding you about how powerful you are. And take that power back. And remember, you can give your power away, but you can never give your responsibility away. It's your responsibility to tap. I can't do that for you. I can point you in the right direction like the Gospel of Thomas, but I can't do it for you. Okay, if we want to unleash the power, we first have to understand how it works, and science explains that to us. Now, I'm going to tap a little bit more into that from a biblical perspective. And then we have to seek the language that portrays this divine matrix, that the matrix recognizes. Okay, and we know now that there's energy. Okay, the vibration involved in that. Okay, verse 48 says, Jesus said, if two makes peace with each other in this one house, they will say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away. Now, in Mathew, the Bible says, if a house is divided in himself, it cannot stand. So it's the house between our ears. Jesus, if two makes peace with each other, and what we have now to find out is what is those two mentioned. Now I'll share that with you in a moment. Okay, verse 106 says, Jesus said, when you make the two one, you will become the sons of man, and you will say, mountain, move away, and it will move away. 2 times in the Gospel of Thomas mentioned, mountain, move away, and it will move. Can it be a physical mountain? Yes, of course it can be a physical mountain. But most probably speaking about the problems in your life that you experience from time to time, okay? Right, Proverbs 23:7, like a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. Now the word heart in Hebrew is labeh, in this case, labeh. And the word translates into the thoughts and the feelings of the mind. Okay, so what's important here is your thoughts and feelings do not complement each other. It doesn't gel with each other. You'll never experience those things in your life. So your thoughts and feelings, but your thoughts create your feelings, which is important. Your thoughts, think about consistently, will create your beliefs will create your actions will give you feedback, and that feedback will create an internal feeling, I made it or I did not make it. So your thoughts are, your feelings are created by your thoughts, but if they do not become one, and most people don't realize that. So if there's ever a clash between your thoughts and your feelings, guess who will win? Even if you're a man, your feelings will always win. We are emotional driven creatures. And guess what? The word emotion breaks up in energy in motion. I nearly wanted to say I rest my case, but I'll share a few more verses here. The Buddha said, the feeling is the prayer, and we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. That if you don't feel it, if you don't have this internal emotion that says to you, this is done, forget it, it's not going to happen to you. You can ask until you're blue in the face and it will not happen. So when the two become one in our hearts, we create the feeling in our minds. Okay, pay careful attention. We start thinking thoughts. Now that's in our brain. Our mind is a different concept. Our mind, the Bible says we have the mind of Christ. Okay, Corinthians, the fourth chapter, verse 1 says, we have the mind of Christ. The word mind breaks up into exalt, expand, and delimit, and abundance. So those four things is in the mind of God. Okay, that's the thoughts that God think about you. So when we take that mind thoughts and we put it in our hearts and we transfer this energy from the heart, because the heart has 50,000 times more energy expressed than the brain. So if we transfer this heart feeling to the brain and we go from the brain to the mind, brain to the heart, brain to the heart, heart to the brain, a reciprocal thing, then and only then the kingdom will be ours to experience. Okay? Right. How do you do that? Ask and you shall receive. So let's see if we can learn something from that. Okay. The asking is not done with a voice. It's done with vibration. And we'll see if we can learn something from this. The asking must be done to the field in a language it recognizes. It must come from the heart, where the feelings create a vibration, an electrical wave, a magnetic wave. That's the language the field recognizes. Again, we're back to quantum physics. There's a wave and there's a particle. There's a wave and there's a particle. But we'll see if we can find a biblical reference from that. John 16, verse 23-24 says, ask in my name. Now, in the 4th century, they took these two sentences and they mistranslated it. We should see what it really means and see what we can learn from that. Okay. So would you like to see what those two sentences are? Yeah, I think you should. The original Aramaic. All things you ask straightly, directly, from inside my name will be given. So far you have not done this, because if we ask... Now, what is missing here is the piece that's been edited out. Let's see if we can see. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness will be full. So I'll share these two verses now. Okay. So the one in our Bibles now says, all things you ask straightly, directly from inside my name will be given. The Aramaic says, ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Now, you can't be surrounded by your answer unless there's a reflection back. It's like you're looking in a mirror and it's reflected back to you. Again, in a world of experiences, only the experience that counts, according to me and anyhow, quantum physics. Then he says, be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. Enveloped, you take a letter and you put it in an envelope. So it's a closeness. You are surrounded. It can't be more clearly stated than that. Okay. It's always about a reflection. Stop lying to yourself. Okay. So look at what it's saying. It is not saying to speak a word. It's saying to be surrounded, to feel as if you're enveloped by what you intend to allow in your life. That's the feeling that creates that. Okay. So if you want a perfect relationship, the healing of your body or that of a loved one, feel the feeling of what it is like, and it'll happen, because it's already happened internally. It just has to be reflected in the external world. Be enveloped by your desire, because it is when the thoughts and the emotions become one through your feelings. Again, emotions are energy in motion. Okay, so if you feel the love that's generated by your heart, that's the language that the field recognizes. And a strange concept, but ask this question and try and answer it to the best of your ability. Do you love money? Many people will say, yeah, but the Bible says money is the root of all evil. I don't agree. Lack is the root of all evil. But some people will say to me, yes, of course I love money. And I'll say, well, show me your bank balance. Show me your wallet. And then, yeah, but I love money. Now, the question is, do money love you? Because there's two complementary energies there. It's your love for the money and the money's love for you. It's just energy. And in the end, if we don't realize that, we'll never have the wealth in our lives that's our birthright. Ask without a hidden motive. Ask without judgment. You can judge something, and you can't judge something and create it at the same time, change it at the same time. Okay, so this is important to understand. If you judge, you will be judged. Now, if you judge something to be bad, judge poverty to be bad, guess what's going to happen? You'll not be able to change it. Poverty are there to give you an internal idea of what you created in the external world. And again, you can give away your power, but you can't give away your responsibility. You created that. Okay? You created that. You created your relationships, you created your love life, you created your health. Every single thing has been created by you. Take responsibility for that. Now, in the quantum field, there's no good or bad, there's just possibilities that you're observing it as good or bad makes it so. It is so mind-boggling that I think the reason why this is not believed is because people think it's too easy. Where your focus goes, your attention goes, energy flows, substance manifests. It can't be easier than that. And I'm preaching to myself this morning. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in my life that's not as it should be. And in the end, I have to take responsibility, just as you guys have to take responsibility for that, okay? Right. So our next training video, I'll speak a little bit about why are some people more successful than other people, because there are specific habits that they apply in their lives. And we'll see around that. So I trust we learned something today, and the essence just is that if we tap into that energy, we'll experience the reality of being free. Okay? Have fun today. The rest of your life also is a choice. Okay?